Good morning everybody and welcome back to another War Thunder video. Now, before I start getting into more detail, as you can see this is going to be on the M1 Abrams. I should point out that I apologise for my voice if it sounds a little bit odd than usual. As most of you may or may not know, I have my interview today at 1:30. It is currently 20 minutes to 9 in the morning. And to be quite honest with you, I'm completely shitting myself. This is the only interview I've had in all the months I've been looking for a full-time job, and I am incredibly nervous because it's the only interview I've ever had in my life. So, as you can imagine, yeah. So I apologise for that, but anyway, this is the best way I could think of to relax, so let's crack on. Now, since I got the XM1 General Motors, I have been researching the M1 Abrams. I realise I'm a little bit late to the party in this regard. The thing was released into the game in the last patch, but as I mentioned in my XM1 review video, I have not got or didn't have any top tier grinders for the Americans, or any vehicle with a talisman on it at top tier, which is why I bought the XM1. Now, I was expecting it to be quite a long grind, especially as I didn't bother putting any other vehicles in my lineup. This is because, as I said, none of the vehicles I currently owned at that tier, which were very few, the M60A1 A1 being the only one. That was a terrible sentence. That being the only one, I didn't see the point in putting it in the lineup, so I just ran the XM1 purely on its own. And a lot of matches I spawned in, went to a capped the zone, covered the cap circle, maybe got 1 or 2 kills and died, jumped out, jumped into the next game and continued doing that. I've been doing that for about 2 days since I got the tank, and I've already got the Abrams. I will tell you, however, that using the 2000 Eagles I got with the XM1, I used those to buy out the basically stock mods for the M1 Abrams. Now, I've always said that I didn't like doing that because it gives you guys not necessarily a bad impression of me, but it might not make my review of the vehicle reliable. However, in this regard, the XM1 is so similar to the M1 Abrams in maneuverability and performance, and the gun handling and everything is basically the same, that I figured it wouldn't make much difference because I've been playing the XM1 all the time to get the M1 Abrams. I'd have a decent idea how the Abrams would play stock. Turns out I was entirely right. This thing has a 32 degrees per second turret rotation speed, which is, I think, the fastest tank rotation speed for its turret in the game. That's not taking SPAA into account, because they're not really tanks as such, but I digress. The reload rate is 5.8 seconds, if memory serves, on my current crew level, which is stupidly fast. It's faster than every automatic loader in the game, as far as I'm aware, at top tier anyway. Faster than any other manual loader. So I think it's reasonably safe to say that it is the fastest loaded gun at top tier. Thankfully, you do get a fin stabilised discarding saber round as standard, or at least as stock. It's not the best one. You do have an upgraded one you can get, but that's the highest tier of modifications, so I'm not going to be anywhere near getting that yet. The standard shell has around 360mm of penetration at 100 meters on a flat angle. This is more or less enough to work. Of course, you have to bear in mind that the stock shell is also free, so it's not costing you anything for any of the kills that you get with that shell. I like this. The shell is actually pretty decent considering, and it's actually alright, funnily enough. I love the sound of the gas turbine engine. This is, as far as I know, the only gas turbine engine tank in the game. I'm probably wrong in that regard, but I love the sound of the engine for this tank. Even though it's not particularly, I was kind of surprised, speaking of the engine, how immobile this thing feels in comparison to the XM1. Of course, the XM1 is fully upgraded because it's a premium, so I'm expecting the Abrams to get better and more mobile the more upgrades you get. And I haven't got any of the mobility upgrades yet. I haven't got the tracks. I just went for parts, turret drive, FPE, smoke grenades, and I think that's it so far. But it does feel more sluggish. It's still fast, it's still mobile, it's not slow by any means of the imagination, but it's not as fast as I was expecting it to be. It will do roughly 40, 45, maybe 50 kilometers an hour on rough terrain, but it does take a little bit longer to get to that speed. The XM1 weighs 52 tons. I'm not entirely sure, or at least I can't remember off the top of my head what the Abrams weighs. I think it's about the same, but the engine is only 1370 odd horsepower, I think, which is still a fantastic engine. I mean, the T64s only get 600, 700 horsepower engines, so it's still good. It's just not as fast. Not yet, anyway. Like I said, this is subject to change. When I do my actual review for this tank and I go over the armour in detail, you will obviously find out there and then. Speaking of the armour, the first few matches I had in this thing, this was not the first match, by the way. I didn't get this lucky on my first game. I'm not that fortunate of a person. The armour is pretty good, as far as I can tell. Having been fighting these things in my T64 and my Leo 2K, I'm well aware of what the armour on this thing is capable of. And I don't want to say trolley, but it's quite trolley, really. If you hit it in the side, it's dead. If you hit it in the ass, it's dead. If you hit it in the sides of the turret, it is most definitely dead. Top tip, don't aim for the ammo rack in the back of the turret. Just don't do it. Unless the turret is sat over the top of the engine deck, so that the fire spreads and catches fire to the engine, don't fire at the back of the turret. It will cause the ammo rack to detonate, but because of the blowout panels, the tank will not burn up instantaneously. Or not at all, really, if the player has fire extinguishers. Speaking of which, I've noticed recently that since patch 1.79, Gaijin has decided they're going to put a respawn, like a cooldown timer on the fire prevention equipment. Why? Who thought that was a good idea? Like, I wanted to make, not a rant, but I wanted to make a video about that on its own, but I don't know if there's enough there to make a video out of, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this first impressions video of the M1 Abrams. Thank you very much for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next War Thunder video. Cheers.